All right, guys, so we got to talk about a NewsNation town hall that happened with Mike Pence in Iowa. And they're going to take a question from a mother who happens to have a transgender child. And she's going to break down in tears over GOP laws that ban so-called gender-affirming care for minors. And I want to react to it because a lot of this stuff when it comes to the left is all emotion. Okay, and that's what they're really trying to do. Okay, they're trying to tug at your heartstrings in order to go against, basically not allowing children to undergo these procedures that they fully don't understand and may be permanent. They may live to regret. Okay, so again, I want to react to it because she does present an interesting situation and she does bring up some interesting points that I think that we should talk about. And again, it's trying to take advantage of your emotional weakness. They want to have you in tears. Okay, and it's not just stories like that that will have people in tears. For me personally, volatility in the marketplace can bring me to tears. And that's why the sponsor of this video is Noble Gold. Do you want to take control of your financial future, but you don't know where to start? Well, trust me, Noble Gold understands. Investing in precious metals may sound confusing, but the team at Noble Gold Investments makes it easy. Let's hear from actual Noble Gold investment customers. Quote, the staff answer all my questions and help me every step of the way. Quote, no pressure, sales tactics, just honest guidance. Quote, securing my future is less stressful thanks to Noble Gold's expertise. Don't settle for financial uncertainty. They'll suggest options to see if you can diversify into gold and silver. And right now, Noble Gold Investments is offering a free 5-ounce silver America the Beautiful bullion coin for qualifying accounts and rollovers. Don't settle for financial uncertainty. Noble Gold Investments has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and countless of 5-star reviews. So why wait? Go to noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. The only gold company I trust. And just remember, there's a risk with every investment and there's no guarantee of any kind.
All right, Kristen, congratulations. Thank you for joining us. We've got Melissa McAllister. She's a professor of social work in Iowa who's joining us, who I understand may have a little bit of a different view on this, but we wanted to let her ask you a question.
Good evening, Vice President. I am an LGBTQ member, and I have trans individuals in my family. Recent anti-LGBTQ bills have been signed into law all around this United States, including here in Iowa. So far in 2023, 15 transgender individuals and gender nonconforming people have been murdered.
Now, again, this is what I'm talking about. Now, I just want to say first and foremost, clearly that is terrible, right? Anybody that loses their life, that's a terrible situation to deal with, okay? I feel for her, okay? I understand why she's emotional about this, but she's leaving out important details in regards to the circumstances behind their murders, which again are obviously tragic. Okay, was it hate? Was it because they're trans, or was it in regards to the reasoning behind it? Basically similar to why most acts of violence are committed against somebody, right? It doesn't really have anything to do with hate or bigotry, has more to do with the fact that they probably were in a domestic dispute, right? Is most likely somebody that you know, okay? That is typically the circumstances regarding somebody losing their life. Just because a transgender person loses their life or they get murdered, that doesn't mean that that was an act of hate or bigotry or that it was done because they were trans, okay? Just like when black people lose their lives every single day in some of these inner liberal cities, they're not losing their lives because they're black, okay? They weren't murdered because they were black. They were murdered due to other circumstances, like, for example, some type of domestic dispute, gang violence, something that most likely has nothing to do with bigotry, okay? That's the reason why they were murdered. Now, you have, hundreds of black people that are murdered every single day in these liberal cities, but yet you don't hear anything about that, right? You don't have anybody coming to these town halls and crying about black people losing their lives at the hands of other black people. But what they want us to believe is that there's some type of epidemic of violence against trans people, and that's just not true, right? People are not out here looking to commit violence against transgender individuals because they're trans, okay? We've already been over these numbers before. According to the Human Rights Campaign in 2022, about 40 transgender individuals were murdered. Now, again, that's obviously tragic. That's horrible, okay? However, when you look at that number, that is incredibly small compared to the amount of transgender people in this country. Okay, so to try to say that there's some type of epidemic of violence, that's just not showing up in the numbers. But if there is violence towards trans people, okay, because of bigotry, I personally believe that conservatives have been the most helpful in regards to helping trans people stay safe and to avoid violence, because we advocate for trans people to be very upfront with individuals that they interact with in regards to their identity and who they are and their sex. Okay, we are pro trans individuals being upfront about it, because that is the best way to avoid putting themselves in a situation where somebody may get upset because they feel like the trans individual was not completely honest about who they are before interacting with them in a way in which somebody may feel led astray or tricked, okay, which could cause them to commit an act of violence against a transgender individual, which, you know, obviously is unacceptable. We want to avoid that. That's why conservatives say what conservatives say. Okay, but the left, on the other hand, no. It's bigotry and hate, right? If you advocate for trans people to be upfront about who they are when interacting with other individuals, especially when we're talking about potentially in a sexual capacity, right? Nah, that's hate and bigotry, right? Again, it's just common sense. Okay, but again, this is not the only subject where the left goes against common sense while claiming to care about people's lives. But what the left actually suggests, in my opinion, puts people in danger. Same thing when it comes to the police stuff, right? They overblow the problem of police brutality in the black community, right? Where, again, you have probably maybe 200 individuals a year that are unarmed and shot and killed by police, a majority of whom are justified, okay? But the chances of a black person being killed by police is like incredibly small, right? It's incredibly small. However, they overblow it, okay? And then they don't give people proper advice in regards to avoiding putting themselves in situations where they may lose their lives at the hands of a police officer, right? Conservatives say, look, you should comply, do what they tell you to do, fight it out in court, keep your life. Nah. The left says police officers are racist and dangerous, and it doesn't matter how you act, okay? It's always the police officer's fault. And that rhetoric is actually what's costing people their lives, okay?
The vast majority of those people have been Black and Latinx transgender women. It is very hard for me to ask these questions after just hearing what I heard. What is your policy plan to protect the transgender community, specifically Black and brown trans women, from historically high levels of violence?
Being tough on crime, right? Being tough on crime. That's the plan. First and foremost, when it comes to this idea of protection, it is your job personally as an individual to protect yourself first and foremost, right? To arm yourself to make sure you can protect yourself. The second is when it comes to the local community, backing law enforcement so that they can actually fight crime. And fighting crime would also protect transgender individuals. But if you listen to the left, that's not the case, right? Police, okay, are a danger to transgender individuals according to the left, okay, because a lot of them are Black and brown. Again, this is what I'm talking about, okay? Leftists, in their talking points, the things that they suggest go against what they claim that they want, okay? The advice they give people, the policies that they push are actually costing people their lives, but for whatever reason, they can't make the actual connection. It really blows my mind.
Well, Melissa, let me say I'm deeply grieved to hear about those tragic circumstances, and I hear your heart, and I'm moved by your emotion. I truly am. Look, if I'm president of the United States, I'm going to see to the protection of every American and the rights of every American. But whether that squares with my values or not, and I'm a Bible-believing Christian. I have a particular view of these matters, and you have a different view of those, perhaps. But I want you to know I believe in the freedom of religion. I believe in the freedom of conscience. I believe in the right of every American to live, to work, to worship according to the dictates of their conscience, and I'll respect that. But when I hope you also hear my heart on this. For me, what adults do in their lives, decisions that they make, including transgender adults, is one thing. But for kids under the age of 18, there's a reason why we don't let you drive till you're 16. The state of Indiana, you can't get a tattoo until after you're 18. You can't drink until after you're 21. That's because we understand that kids don't fully understand the consequences of their actions. And so I hope you hear in my strong sentiment on the gender ideology that's being taught and has been taught in some elementary schools and promoted among many of our kids, that when it comes to surgical or chemical procedures, I really believe that we've got to protect our kids from decisions that will affect them the balance of their lives, while at the same time saying that adults can make decisions according to the dictates of their own conscience. And I want you to know, whether I agree with everything anyone in this country believes, that anybody that knows our family knows we love everybody. I believe in treating others the way I want to be treated. And I hope you hear my heart on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, I might not necessarily rock with Pence all that much, but he's right on this issue, right? I agree with him 100%. I want everybody to be treated the same. However, we can't have this situation where we're granting people special rights and privileges. School is not a place to push a social agenda on children that is extremely controversial, that parents don't want their kids being exposed to. School is not a place for that. School is a place for reading, writing, math, not a social agenda, okay? Kids should learn about these topics at home, right? It is the parents' job to teach their kids about stuff. If she wants to teach her kid about it, okay, fine, right? I ain't got nothing to do with it, okay? That's her and her child, okay? But you shouldn't be forcing it on kids in school. And you really shouldn't be, forcing, these kids to go through these, operations or these transitions before they truly understand exactly what they're doing, because they could regret it. They don't know. I honestly have not heard one good argument for why a child should not wait till they're 18 years old. I haven't heard one. I really haven't heard one. But that's the only thing that Republicans are saying. But apparently saying that means that you're hateful, right? It means that you're anti-LGBTQ. And that's just not the case. If anything, I actually think that the conservative movement, from the perspective of giving good, rational advice that will save the lives of trans people, trans kids as well, too, I actually think that the conservatives are more pro-LGBTQ than liberals and progressives. Just from a common sense perspective. To be quite honest with you, when you talk about pro-saving lives, yeah, I think that conservatives are more on board with that than the liberals and progressives. I really do believe that.
Melissa, do you understand the Vice President's idea that there is a difference between how adults conduct their lives and make decisions and that of how kids do?
Absolutely. I'm a social worker. I've been in this profession for 25 years. I've worked with kids most of my profession. I started an LGBTQ youth program in my own hometown. I started one in Terre Haute, Indiana, where I was threatened with KKK and X is on my doorstep, and that was in 2020. I have worked with kids as young as 5 years old that have gender nonconforming and identities that are transgender, and I've raised one. And so to hear somebody tell me that it's not okay for young children to make decisions about their gender identity and to ask their school officials for support, protection, and help is appalling.
Melissa, thank you very much.
Especially here in Linn-Mar. Thank you, Linn-Mar.
Melissa, thank you. We appreciate the question. Mr. Vice President, just to follow up on that, is there a way to have a situation where kids who have some real challenges or questions and view life in different ways, as Melissa indicated, can get help and their parents can get help for them without necessarily going all the way in these what you would call extreme procedures?
Look, I would just tell you, and having been married to an elementary school teacher all these years, I just think we got to protect our kids. I really do, and I'm saddened by the experiences that she recounts.
Yeah.
I really am. I don't think anyone should ever be mistreated or harassed or discriminated against because of who they are or what they believe, or their race or creed or color. And anybody that knows me knows that's true. But I think at the end of the day, look, the idea that we are telling young, impressionable kids that little boys that they can become girls, or little girls that they can become boys, I just think is wrong. And I would hope that Melissa would hear my heart, that I'd like to put my arm around any one of those young people and just say, we love you, but wait. Wait until you reach an age of majority, wait until you have a better idea of who you are, and then live the life that you want to live in this free country.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I don't think this answer was terrible, but I think the problem with the GOP when it comes to this issue is that he didn't really push any real kind of solution that I think can be a middle ground, a reasonable middle ground on this issue. And I think what he should have really said is that, yeah, well, I'm pro getting these kids whatever help that they need. Outside of transitioning them, of course, okay? Outside of that, right? So whatever type of help they need in order to be able to, get to the age of 18, right? Where they can, at that point, make whatever decision they want to make about what they want to do with their bodies. I'm pro doing that. That, in my opinion, is the real kind of middle ground on the issue, because the GOP has been framed as anti-LGBTQ when I think they could easily turn it around and say, hey, no, we're actually pro-saving LGBTQ lives. This is what we're for. Because what we are advocating for, personally, is going to save lives. That's what they should be saying, right? That is what they should be pushing, okay? That's what they should be saying, because again, what's happening now is when you continue to try to not really address the issue, okay, you give the left this opportunity to say, well, kids are dying because of this, right? And when you're not addressing the issue of the left claiming that kids are dying because of the lack of support and help, okay, because of GOP laws, again, that's a very emotional argument, even though in my opinion, I don't think it's really grounded in reality. That's a very emotional argument that you have to have a policy solution for. The policy solution to say, hey, look, we're pro getting them whatever help they need outside of transitioning them, right? To help them get to the age of 18, and in which at 18, hey, they can do what they want to do. But at least at that point, they've had enough life experience to at the very least somewhat understand the ramifications of the decision that they make before they start to undergo some of these treatments. So, hey, that's my perspective on that. Again, this will be an issue come 2024. I think the GOP really needs to kind of make sure they're framing this in the right way, because, look, a lot of people are on board with the GOP, right? I think most people in this country agree with the GOP more so they do with the left. But again, the emotional arguments of the left, that's what will hold the GOP back. And the GOP really needs an answer for it. And I think the answer is really to talk about how conservative solutions are actually pro saving, trans lives or whatever. I think you got to reframe it that way. Okay. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.